Most business owners, they think everybody's like them. They're not. And we can't superimpose what we are like onto everybody out there because we need to have differences within our business. We'll grow better and ultimately become more valuable.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Today I have a very special guest with me, Pete Mohr with Simplifying Entrepreneurship. Pete, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Brad. I'm looking forward to chatting with you and the listeners here today.
Awesome. So give us just a little bit of a background, who you are, what you do, just kind of 30,000 foot view. So we got a good starting point.
Yeah. 30,000 foot view is just celebrated my 30th anniversary in business. So kind of excited about that about a month or so ago.
Congratulations.
I used to have a bathroom renovation company, and about 15 years ago, I sold it. And the fellow that bought it from me called me up and he said, "Hey, Pete, you owned the business for 15 years. I've owned the business for 15 years. It served us both well." And, so that was kind of a little, happy moment, I guess. I mean, it goes by quick, Brad. Holy Moses, But at the same time, I had my bathroom renovation company. We also had a cleaning franchise that we bought that was had 30 clients, and then we built it to 300 clients and exited that business. I helped other people buy and sell businesses. I was a licensed business broker for a short while, which is how I found a business that I currently still own. We own a shoe store. We own a couple of shoe stores, actually, but at the time we had bought one called Shoetopia, and that was in 2010, so 14 years later. Still own some shoe stores and involved there. And a lot of the stuff that I do now, I spend a lot more of my time working with other business owners, helping them, move from operator to owner, like we talked about before hopping on the call here. And I work about a day a week or so in my shoe stores right now, because it's my belief that basically as you build your business, you should be able to work in it in the area that you most love to work in. And when I'm working there, I really love doing what I'm doing. And when I'm not working there, I'm helping other business owners like our listeners here today and working through some of their trials and tribulations and helping them free up their time and make more money.
Awesome. Yeah. I did not know that you had a bathroom remodeling company.
We had a franchise, and
okay.
I was franchisee number 20. It was called Surface Doctor, and they had started it in 1994, and I was 23 at the time, and I'm like, this is something I could afford. That was the main thing. It's like I could actually buy this one with my savings. So I bought my Astro van. We were running Astro vans back then, labeled it all up, Surface Doctor. We did bathtub refinishing, bathtub liners, bathtub wall systems. We refinished kitchen cabinets. I refinished appliances. Back in the days when everything was harvest gold and avocado green and pink and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I worked mostly for landlords, but we were in about 1,000 bathrooms a year, Brad. So we did a lot of work and saw a lot of apartments. I mean, we did homeowners too, but the bulk of our business was for landlords. And it's like I said, 30 years later, still going strong for James, the current owner of it now. The interesting thing was the franchisor changed 3 times in 5 years. And after the third change, I just said, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm not a great franchisee. They aren't great franchisors. I bought it out and just called it Surface Medic. So for the last 25 or so years, it's been called Surface Medic. So we defranchised it properly and went our own way after that. But it was definitely one of the things. I've held a spray gun in HVLP. I've ripped apart bathrooms and tore out tubs and put in, shower bases and all that kind of stuff. So it was a big part of my past and something that I just loved doing at the time. 15 years later, I'm into something else, but I certainly have a unique sort of spot in my heart. And 2 of my kids are contractors, so that has stayed in the family as well.
When you first bought that franchise, I mean, were you kind of doing it yourself and then you hired employees, or did you grow pretty quick?
Yep, did the sales, did the spraying, did the liners, all that kind of stuff. Like, dig in and go. You had to. I mean, I was a young kid. I was 23, and had met my wife, but we weren't formally married yet. And it's like getting going, and you have to put in your time for a lot of people that don't have deep pockets. So I built it up and got it to a point where I was busy pretty much full time. Handed my truck off to a tech that I had hired, and then got my next truck, started sales, and then built out the truck fleet that way. And I ended up being more of a salesperson salesperson. And then we added that other business, the cleaning company. So I was selling for both the businesses and sort of had operation managers in both of those and overseeing both of them as, time passed on. But I've cleaned more toilets than you could imagine. I've scrubbed more urinals than you could imagine, and sprayed more bathtubs than you could imagine in my past. And it was just part of getting going,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the part of entrepreneurship a lot of people don't talk about. When you don't have deep pockets, it's sweat equity, right? I mean, you got to do it. This ties right into kind of one of the questions is like, how do I know? Because you mentioned about hiring a general manager or having general managers. How do you know, like, when your business is ready to be self-managed?
Well, I wrote a little book earlier this year, and it's on a sort of a foundation that I call the 5 Ps. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but basically the 5 Ps are this: understand your promise, align your products, or in this case, services. So understand your promise, align your products, your process, and your people to that so that you can have the right amount of profit. And obviously there's always this sort of catch-22 around, do I have enough money in the business to hire somebody else to do what I'm doing? And there is a leap of faith that you have to go through in order to do that. But one of my other hats as a certified Colby consultant, one of the things I do is help people understand their unique strengths. And if you can work more in your strengths, I found that although I could do all the work, I was a better salesperson than I was a cleaner, or a better salesperson than I was a bathtub refinisher or a acrylic wall installer. I can do it. It just wasn't my unique ability. And so once I freed myself up of being on the truck every day and going out and doing the work and running the routes and doing the installs and all that kind of stuff, our business grew, and our business grew even more because I was able to go out and do what is naturally best for me, which is the sales. And from that perspective, there does come a point in time where there's a leap of faith where you just have to say, you know what, I'm going to do it. But the big thing is, especially like we talked about, if you're not deep pocketed, is the fact that if I take myself off the truck, what am I going to do now in order to grow the business and make sure that all the guys have work, and that, we always knew in advance what was coming down the pipe. I knew if there wasn't enough work in the pipeline, and it's like, okay, man, I got to hit it. I got to hit the property manager track and stop in a bunch of different buildings and see if they got some work for us this month so that I can fill the guys up.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things, because I talk about this a lot, is like going from the I call it the craftsman to the to business owner.
Yeah.
A lot of people self-identify as what they do. I'm a carpenter, I'm a remodeler, I'm a painter, whatever. And all of a sudden, what they've been doing for the last 5, 10, maybe 20 years or more, you're saying, don't do that anymore. Don't do what you're really good at, and now do a whole new skill set that you're actually probably not very good at, and start doing that full time.
Well,
has that been your experience with a lot of, small business owners?
Yes and no, because if you are truly best at doing what you do, which is whatever it is, and that is your specialty, then hire a manager to run that side of it, and you stay on the tools, and it doesn't matter whether you're furniture repair guy or a plumber or up and, running the crew on top of the roof. If that's what you are truly gifted at, then that's what you should stay at. And you hire the strengths around you that you need to grow the business. So I ended up being a better salesperson than I was a refinisher. So I ended up doing the sales. But if I was truly the best refinisher in the fleet, and that's where my talents are best used, then it would have been better for me to hire a salesperson. And that's where understanding where you truly want to be, because by the way, if you're the business owner, you have the right to do what you want to do first. So, understand that if you're good at it and you love it, and here's the way to tell. I've got this little exercise I call love it or leave it that I run most of my clients through. And here's the way to tell. If at the end of the day, you've worked your 10-hour shift, or 12 hours, whatever the case is, and you are completely run down, completely worn out, and you're like this every single day, you're probably not working in your unique strengths. If you, like in my case, if I went out and sold all day and I hit, I was like, had the best day ever, and it was 12 days long or 12 hours long, I could go and do it again, because that was just like what I love to do. And
yeah, actually, I was just talking. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just talking to a contractor this morning, and I was like, if what you're doing is constantly met with resistance, then you're like, to what you're saying, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, because you're literally just fighting through it the whole time.
Think about bookkeeping, Brad. Like, how many contractors love bookkeeping, right?
I don't want to think about it.
No, man. And that's one of the first things I got rid of, right? And I'll tell you, just from a background perspective, like I have 2 business degrees. I got an MBA, I have another business degree. I'm good at accounting. I'm actually good at it. I hate doing it. Hate it. I hate balancing my visa. I haven't balanced a visa in 30 years at work. It was one of the very first things that I hired, even though I'm capable. And that's the thing. Most small business owners feel as though if they're capable, they should be doing it. My feeling is that you shouldn't be doing it if you're capable and you don't like it. You should be letting somebody else who loves to do that. My bookkeeper at work, when she balances the visa, she's like, woohoo, woohoo. I love that. Woohoo. And I'm like, oh my God, like that just drains me, right? If you think about spending 2 hours, doing all that stuff, doing the payroll, doing all your invoicing, all that kind of stuff. That stuff can be hired out to somebody who loves to do it, and it's giving them their love. Just because it's not your love doesn't mean it's not theirs. They're going to be better at it. They're going to love doing it. They're going to be more efficient, and they're going to free you up so that you can then go and do what you love to do within your business.
No truer words have been spoken. I remember when I hired my bookkeeper, I mean, she was a nerd. She loved it. She laid in bed at night thinking about formulas that she can put in her Excel spreadsheet. I mean, like she would light up when you talk about it. And I'm like, I don't care. Just do your thing. Like, make my life easier. And she did. It was one of the best, investments I ever made.
And when we look at that, I mean, that could be a sales position. That could be, your operations manager position. That could be the next guy on top of the roof. That could be the guy that's, working the tow truck or the lift truck or the Caterpillar, like whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. You just sort of starting to, as your business grows, starting to split and separate these different duties and understanding that there are other people. Here's one of the things. Most business owners think everybody's like them. They're not. And that's a good thing. And we can't superimpose what we are like onto everybody out there, because we need to have differences within our business. We need to have people that have unique differences, that are really good at doing these different things in a better way to bring different ideas to the business so the business will grow better and ultimately become more valuable.
Yeah, I'll share. Even in my coaching business, one of the things that I've struggled with is marketing. As you know, when you're doing coaching at a national level, if you're working nationally, like it's a totally different game of marketing, right? It's not like when you're doing your local marketing. And I've struggled with it. And I recently hired a CMO, and I just in the week that he's worked for me, blowing my mind of like, oh my gosh, this guy is going to crush it with marketing, because even though I can fumble my way through it, even though I know a little bit and I can be okay with it, the second you hire a professional, it's like going from minor leagues to the majors, right? And that's at any area of your business. Okay, so here's devil's advocate now. I know I need to hire a general manager. I can't afford to pay someone $80,000, $100,000 a year salary. So what do I do now?
Well, if you really just can't and it's not doable, then you look for ways to free your time up. And it might be automations out there. It might be a better system for scheduling your appointments. It might be, reorganizing your time, because unless you're really good at time management, so many business owners aren't. The idea around time management is such a key piece. So if you just can't afford to hire somebody, then what you need to do is you really need to buckle down on time management, and you need to really become a master of your schedule and making sure that you're starting to use priority as a focus, and making sure that everybody in your team starts using priority. And I'll use an example. I've got a buddy of mine, great guy. I've known him all of my life since we were in public school. He's a general contractor. But I'll tell you, not a very successful one. He's scraped by for the last 30 years. He goes to Home Depot probably 4 times a day because they forget stuff and they don't do it's like they're off to, oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. And he's leaving the job a lot of time, not even sending one of his guys, because he hasn't set up a credit card or an account or whatever to let somebody of sort of lesser authority to go and take care of that stuff. And, this kind of stuff, I see it over and over and over again. And this is a friend of mine who's asked me various advice over the years. And I've said to him many, many times, why do you even ask me? You never do anything that I suggest anyway. So let's just talk about hockey. You're my buddy. Let's talk about hockey because there's no
Yeah.
sense in talking about business, right? People have to want to change. And if they want to change and they want to take some steps to improve their business and their lives, people like you and I are here to help that journey, but they have to actually want it.
That's so key. That's so key there, Pete. I mean, I literally had this conversation over and over and over again about, if you're the owner of a business, you should not be the one going and getting materials.
Come on, it's ridiculous.
That's a $15, $18 an hour task. You're a 200 plus hour, employee in your own business. You should not be doing that. But I think what you said, it's like the term accidental entrepreneur has come up recently. And I kind of like that term specifically for the service-based industry, even the contracting side of it. It's like, I've been a contractor for 20 years, or I've been a carpenter for 20 years. Why don't I just start my own business? The wife's like, honey, you should start your own business. You're so good at carpentry. You're such a good carpenter. And it's like, that is not the same as somebody who's like, I'm going to build a business in the blue collar industry so that later on I can exit or do this or whatever. And I think a lot of people miss that part of it. But I wanted to get into the exiting your business, because I know that you help a lot of people do this, and this really ties into really kind of how you set your business up, right? How to set it up to be self-managing, to have those systems. So talk a little bit about what do we need to have in place to have our business exit ready.
It's a real interesting thing. You were talking about national sort of coaching, and I just got back. I mean, I live in Canada, but last week I was in Austin talking at a conference with regards to this, and had so many of the people come up after the talk and basically say, yeah, I get it. And here's the thing. You kind of bear down in your business, like we talked about, especially those first 1 to 3 years, right? It's like, I'm doing what I got to do. I'm working those hours. I'm putting it in. I'm 7 days a week. But after that, you got to really start looking at what the goal is and some of these sort of things. When we start looking strategically at things, you should always be exit ready, not just when you're thinking of retirement. And I'll tell you why, because most of the business owners hang out with business owners. And so you probably know someone who came into difficulty in their business because they died. Death is a key issue of why businesses have to be exit, obviously, right? The second one is divorce. Mm-hmm. Divorces cause a ton of business exits. Partnership disagreements. You in a partnership with someone else? Maybe it's good right now, but just like divorce, it's not always good forever.
I went through that myself.
There you go. Like I said, as soon as you start triggering one of these things, somebody can reflect upon it, right? Here's another one, disability. What happens if you fall off the roof and you're out for 3 months with a broken leg? That might cause the business to teeter, especially if you're the linchpin in every decision that's happening in your business. And the last one is distress. We all saw what COVID did to certain industries, and, whether the ups and downs of different things that happen in the world that we have no control over can cause business failure. So, and that's unplanned exit. If you're going to plan your exit because you either want to retire or you want to take this whatever bit of money and put it into something else that's more interesting or whatever the case is, that's great too. But you can see that whether you're planned or whether you're unplanned, your business always needs to be exit ready, because especially in unplanned, if it's not exit ready, you're leaving money on the table for the rest of your family and for yourself. And values being left that should have been planned for, that should have been there. Because if you get to a point where you have to unplan, or in an unplanned exit, you get to a point where you get cancer or something like that, car accident, whatever the case is, and you have to let this business go, you need the most amount of money, not the least amount of money. And people are going to take advantage of it, knowing that you're in the predicament that you're in on the other side of the buy-sell. It's got to be ready.
What are some major things that we need to have ready to be able to do that? Like, obviously, if you're an owner operator and you're the whole business relies on you, that's not going to be a very good situation. So what are some main things that we need to think about if we're going to get to a point, like if we're planning ahead, I want to exit my business, take out the accidental stuff. I want to exit. What are some things that I have to have in place in order to be able to have a good exit?
Here's the thing. As business owners, You can't completely split your business and your life as though everybody says, oh, you should be able to just break those apart. You can't. And as business owners, 70% of business owners are upset 1 year after they exit their business. 70%.
What's the reason behind that?
They don't have a life after plan.
Mm.
They don't know what they want to do with this money. They get their money and then they, are you going to invest it in something else, or what are you? And if you're thinking of retiring, well, you can only golf so much. You can only go on so many cruises. Like after you get through your trips that you want to take, and I'm gonna play golf 3 times a week or whatever the case is, and go skiing a few times a week or whatever your passion is. Once you kind of get over the initial hump of that, then what? And that usually takes about a year. And then they're like, what the heck did I sell my business for? Because they didn't actually plan. So part of exit planning is actually planning what your life is going to look like, not only for the first year, but for the next 20. And really digging down into that, not just saying it in passing. I'm talking dig down into it. And then you have to see personally, do you have the finances to do that? Whatever you want to do. Because if you don't have the finances in order, that's a problem. So there's 3 legs of the stool. 1 is, what's the plan? 2 is, do you have the finances? And 3 is, the business ready to go? And is the business ready to go? If the business is actually part of those finances and you're expecting a sum of money from your business to pop into those finances to support your dreams, what's the valuation of your business? It's a most important thing that you actually have your business valued. And when I'm talking about value, I'm not talking about saying that, hey, I went golfing with my buddy last week and he owns a contracting business. He's got a roofing business. I got a roofing business. He sold his for $5 million. I should be able to get $5 million. That's not good enough. We're talking about a range of value. You don't necessarily need an exact number depending on how quickly you are away from wanting to exit, but a range of value of what your business is truly worth so that you can then plan. And if it's not worth what you think it is, which is what happens to most people who get a range of value, they have an idea that's often, significantly higher than the reality of it. And if all of their planning, both financially and personal planning, is based on a wrong number, that's a problem.
You mean I can't exit my, me and one helper construction business for $5 million?
It's kind of sad, Brad, because most of the people haven't put those 3 parts together. And that's the first thing you need to do with exit planning. It's like, have this plan so that I know how much money I need. Do I have the amount? And I'm talking outside of your house. You still need a house to live in, right? You still need a car to drive. What's the business worth? And most of the time for small business owners, the business is their single biggest investment, but they don't even know what it's worth. You know what your stock portfolio is worth. You can go online right now and it tells you, I got $100,000 in my stock account. Great. Well, what's my business worth? I don't know. Buddy sold his for $5 million, so I should be able to get $5 million. It's really peculiar, but it happens all the time. So step 1 is get a range of value. And step 2 is understand what you need as far as, the here and life after, and does it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, then it's like, call Brad, call Pete. Let's help you get to where you need to go so that we can push you through to what you want out of your business. Because the idea of moving from operator to owner is that your business actually does the work for the life that you want to live, not you live for your business all the time. That's the idea, right? Your business, thinking about foundations and construction, your business should be the foundation for your life. If you're always the one at the foundation holding that up, that's a problem. So we got to dig into those 5 P's. We got to dig into better process that's explainable, that's transferable. We got to dig into our product selection and our service selection. We got to dig into our people, which the people parts are your ideal customer, your ideal suppliers, and your ideal other outsourced partners that help deliver your promise, so that we can have the right amount of profit, because businesses aren't sold unless they're profitable.
Yeah, that's all. Those are all good things, especially the life, beyond that. Yeah. I think at least the people that I have talked to that want to exit, and you can tell me your thoughts on this too, but if you kind of what I was joking about with, just having me and a helper is like, if I'm going to buy your business and I have to come in and take over, and now I just inherited a 40-hour plus week job, it is not going to have the same value as if you have a manager in place. And now all I have to do is maybe a couple hours, 2 to 5 hours a week of checking in and making sure the ship's going in the right direction. Can you speak a little bit about that, like the differences? Because that, in my opinion, that's one of the most important things you have to get right before you sell.
Yeah. We call it hub and spoke in the value builder methodology that we use. And if you are the hub and spoke of the business, that definitely affects your ability to sell the business. I'm not saying you can't sell the business, but I am saying it affects the valuation of the business. And, if I have $1 million to spend, and I'll just use $1 million to throw it out there. If I have $1 million to spend, do I want to spend $1 million and work 70 hours a week and earn whatever that business earns on top of my $1 million, like for a more risky investment than if I just put it in a bank stock or something like that? Like if I had $1 million, what are my other options for my $1 million? What if I bought another house or 3 other houses and watched them go up in value without me touching them over the course of the year? Right? So most business owners don't realize that for anybody who has this sum of money that they deem their business is worth, they have other options. Lots of them. Lots of other options. And so they have to be able to equate the value of this business, whatever it is. I'm spending $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, doesn't matter. I have to be able to equate that amount of money with my return on my investment and my salary if I'm going to be working 50 or 60 hours in it. And if I'm going to be working 10 hours in it, fine. It's more of an investment. If I'm going to work 50 or 60, it's my job. So I need to make the money on my investment plus whatever my value is worth. And you were saying, hey, your value is worth $200 an hour. Well, then I need to make another $400,000 on top of my investment.
Hey, just a quick time out from the show. If you're a frustrated contractor who's dealing with low profit margins, stuck working on the tools every day, or doing free estimates for people who are never going to hire you in the first place, I invite you to my private contractor community, the Profit Club, where contractors just like you are adding 2 to 3 times more profit each year without producing any more jobs and finally getting completely off the tools to never do another free estimate again. So if you're ready to increase your profits, stop doing free estimates and get off the tools, then all you have to do is click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Profit Club and see how I can easily 2 to 3 times the cash in your pocket, give you a proven sales process that will convert more jobs with ease and get you off the tools once and for all. And the best part is you can do all of this without having to produce more jobs than you currently are. Click the link to learn more. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, because it's not, the idea that you're going to find somebody that wants to start their own business and they're just going to buy your business is like the unicorn, where it's like, I mean, what I'm trying to say is very few people are like, I'm looking for a job that I can work 40 hours a week in and, invest $1 million and then have a job for the next several years. Like that almost, that's almost non-existent. That would be the unicorn. That's a very specific set of circumstances that you have to meet. Most people are going to be looking for some type of investment where it's more hands off than hands on. So I think a lot of people get caught up in this idea that you can just sell whatever you got. And it's like, well, no, I mean, you can sell your assets, you can sell your customer list, but you're not going to get millions of dollars for those things.
Well, here's the other thing. I mean, I've got this, it's called the Value Builder Assessment. It's on my website, and one of my websites is called the Exit Ready Business. So when you go there, you click the button and you can take this assessment. It takes about, 20 or 30 minutes to take it. It breaks it down into these 8 different compartments. And like I said, one of them is hub and spoke. How involved are you in all the decisions? One of them is customer based, right? And how can you prove to me that, especially if you are the hub of your business, how can you prove to me that when I buy your business, all your customer base is still going to come to me? Do you have contracts in place? Are you the primary person that talks to these people every time? Because when you leave, you're not going to be here. So how confident am I, which is why people want to buy businesses, because they are confident in what they're buying, just like you would buy whatever stock or anything that you're thinking, hey, even a house. I'm going to buy this because I'm confident that it's going to go up in value and that I can resell it. Well, if I'm buying your customer list and you're the person that sold every single one of these people for the last 10 years, how confident am I that they're going to keep the relationship with me as I come in as the newbie? this is a problem. So part of the process needs to be that you need to have other people start selling your best customers other than you, right? That's part of growing the value of your business. Part of growing the value of your business is you need to have other suppliers other than the 2 or 3 key suppliers that give everything. Because if that supplier leaves in any given way, folds, goes bankrupt, any of those kind of things, the person now doesn't have the confidence in being able to deliver the service that you've always provided, and the value of the business goes down. You got to have backups. The same sort of thing goes with any other suppliers. If you have a general contracting business and you have one window person that does everything, one roofing guy, all those kind of things, think about those interpersonal relationships. Think about the cash flow that goes in between all of those. Think about the confidence that they'll have in you as the new owner. All of those things can tear down the valuation of a business if you don't have backups.
That makes sense. Yeah. Even your relationships with your subs, most of those are very personal, and then you buy my business and you come in and you have a different leadership style, different character, personality style. And then all of a sudden we don't gel, and if I'm the plumber and I'm like, I don't need your business, Pete, I'm out. And then now you just lost that sub. Now you got to start that process.
Or you go in and you say, hey, listen, the old guy used to do net 15. My terms are net 30. And, whatever you're changing, because most business owners, when they buy a new business, they're changing stuff. They're doing it their way, all that kind of, and that necessarily doesn't go off so great with all the people that are used to the way it is.
Yeah. The tile guy, I always paid him 100% up front because he needed the money and stuff. And you're like, I don't do that. I'm not going to pay you 100% up front. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone. Now you're starting that process over. So that makes a lot of sense.
And you had it in the system that the tile guy always comes in after subfloor. And it's like, it was just a system. It was there and everything was working. Well, now I'm going to tweak the system because it's my business and you've left the building. And
how do we protect against that then? Using that exact scenario, like what would I do if it's my business and I'm getting ready to sell it? I have a good relationship with the tile guy because I'm the owner.
Yeah.
What can I put in place in my business to try to insulate against that situation happening before I sell the business?
Yeah, as much as you can do, contractual sort of things are the way to go. Get everything in writing is the best. And I know that doesn't always happen, especially in small business. But the idea here is as much as you can do and have it all written down. Like it can't be in your head because your head doesn't transfer with the business. So it's got to be written down in a process form so that the new owner can say, oh, I need to go from here to here. Like, what's the step-by-step procedure? And I know that's tiresome for some contractors, don't want to do that kind of stuff. But if you want value in your business, you have to be able to prove in due diligence that this is how we make the amount of money that we make to justify the cost that you are going to pay for your business. And it has to be written down. That's this key piece of process. This is the biggest thing, especially in the contractor space. Process is not documented. And where it is documented, nobody's actually assigned authority. It's one thing to have process, but if nobody has authority to run it outside of you, then the process isn't really that worthy. So the idea here is that I've got another little model called the 4 A's, and it's assess it, address it, align it, and assign it, all around accountability. Assess what needs to be done, address it, which means how are we going to do it, align it to the person in the accountability chart or organizational chart in your business that can do it other than you. And then here's the thing, assign it. Don't just give them a title and not actually give them the authority to do it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Would you say that this is where also having this standardizing that across all of your subs? So like if I'm doing a net 15, if that's my standard, then that applies to all my subs. Because I know guys, it's like, oh, my tile guy gets net 15 and my plumber gets net 30 and my concrete guy I pay him up front. And it's just like every single sub and every single tradesman or supplier has its own unique way of doing business with them. And I think that's what you're trying to say is that when you standardize this, it's just, you may have a couple exceptions here and there.
Yeah.
But it's still written down. You could come into my business, open up a document or whatever, and know exactly what needs to happen with this guy with the special instructions. That's what you're talking about. Am I correct?
It needs to be at that level of detail because when people are spending a good chunk of cash, They want to have confidence that it will continue on. Just because you did whatever last year, 100,000 in profit, and the year before you did 100,000 in profit, you've proven over the last 3 years you've done 100,000 in profit the last 3 years, doesn't mean that it's going to continue next year when I buy this business. Because especially if you can't show me on paper how to do it, because you're going to be gone. And if you're the hub and spoke, and if you have all the tied connections with the customer base, and if you're the guy that has all the connections with the team that we have and the subs that we have, which in most cases that is the case. And I mean, let's be real. But at the same time, how can you be working? Remember, we're not talking about exiting the business for most of the cases, people listening here in the next 6 months. We're talking about the long term. We're talking about 5 years, 10 years down the road, right? And if that's the case, just be thinking about these sort of things. Who else can go in? Like even, getting back to our initial sort of conversation around going to Home Depot 4 times a day as the owner, it's like, even if one of your guys is making the run to go pick up the ABS pipe, like they've got the connection now with the plumbing store. They've got the connection with, the plywood dude. They got connection with the roofing store. And if you take over the business next week, it's going to be that guy going and getting it anyway. And those people aren't going to see any change. But if you're the person doing all of those little connections every single time, and next week it's me, how many questions are going to be asked? Oh, where's Jim? Where's Jim? What's going on? That causes a lot of frustration and a lot of ambiguity and a lot of people wondering what the heck's happening here. That's not good for the value of your business.
I mean, even if you're not planning on selling ever, like you're like, I'm just going to ride this thing until I croak one day. Having a business that is sellable or ready to exit is only going to make you more profitable. It's only going to make your life easier. So why wouldn't you want to do that in the first place?
Most of the time, it's because people just think they're too busy to even think about it. And don't think, especially when we talk about the stuff that we talked about off the bat, the unplanned exit, it'll never happen to me. It's called insurance, folks. You never think your truck's never going to get smashed by somebody else, but you probably have been in an accident.
Yep.
And it's called insurance. With your most valuable asset next to your house. Why would you not insure it by doing some of this work ahead of time, by building the value in your business so that one day when you do want to exit or you have to exit, you get the most value for it at the time, which is going to help you with the legacy of your family and all the other things that you want to do with the money that you get from the hard work that you've done for all the years within your business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Don't you think, Pete, though, that a lot of entrepreneurs are addicted to the chaos, the neediness of their business, even though they complain every day about putting out fires? Mm-hmm. I always joke about, you're a professional firefighter, but you're also the arsonist too.
For sure.
Don't you think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that, even though it strokes the ego, right? When you come in, it's like, hey boss, I got this problem. And you're like, well, do this, 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 and this. And they go, oh yeah, that worked out perfect. Stroke my ego. I feel good because I solved this problem. Don't you see a lot of that though with small business owners?
I do. And I think there's a few different things that wrap around that. One of the big ones is what I call the freedom side of things. And if you want to move from frustration to freedom, you can't be making those calls all the time. You'll never get free. One of the guys I worked with had his business for 10 years, never took more than a weekend off, ever. I mean, that's sad to me. And if you truly want to work 7 days a week, then fine. But if you don't, and if you have a family and you do want to go see your parents or your kids or go away with your friends, whatever the case is, without being attached at the hip to your phone, then you need to start doing this stuff. You need to start having process that other people can do without you, and decisions can be made without you. I like to use the line, decisions need to be made at the lowest possible level of the business. I'll say it again because I think it's important. Decisions need to be made at the lowest possible level of the business. And I'm going to go back to our shoe stores because everybody's bought shoes. Imagine if you went into a shoe store and bought a pair of size 9 without trying them on. And you got home, put them on, and you're actually a size 9.5 or 10. So you go back to the store and you're like, okay, I bought a 9. I just kind of whipped into the store and grabbed them on my way home, but I need a 9.5. And they said, oh, 9.5, that's above my pay grade. I can't actually make that decision. I need to get the assistant manager. And the assistant manager comes over and says, "Oh, 9.5. Oh, geez, I can do 9.5 in Nike, but I can't do 9.5 in Adidas. I don't have that level of power. So I'm going to need to get the manager, but the manager isn't in until Monday morning, and this is a Friday. So you can come back on Monday. And if you come back on Monday, then, Jen will be in the store and she'll be able to help you out." This is what goes on with your team if you're making all of the decisions out there in your job site. And how frustrating can that be for the client and for the team members who know what to do but don't have the authority to do it? And they keep asking you and phoning you and texting you and, sending you messages and I need to go ahead. I need this to go ahead. I need this to go ahead. And you're holding on to the power. It's a stopgap for growth too. There's so many reasons why that's fundamentally wrong. When something as easy as a change from a 9 and a 9.5, it's here in stock. Here you go. Here's your box. Like, take it. Make the customer happy and move. But so many small business owners don't allow authority to be made without them. It's crippling.
That's a great analogy, illustration. Like, I was getting frustrated when you're talking. I'm like, dude, just give me just swap out the shoes. What's the big deal? Why is it such a hard thing that, you know what I mean? But I love the authority perspective of that. I think that is something that is missed, where a lot of contractors, not contractors, but business owners, they're having conversations with their team, and like collectively they're saying, "Oh yeah, you should be able to do this, this, and this, and you can make this decision." But the owner is never actually transferring authority to them in a purposeful way. Like, it's almost like assumed. Like, well, we had this conversation, Pete. Like, well, I said that's what we're going to do, but you never actually transfer the authority. So I think that's huge.
That's that 4 A's, right? Align it, assign it, or address it, assess it, align it, and assign it. And the assign part is the hard part for a lot of small business owners. And here's the thing. If you're the business owner and somebody's coming to you, one of your team members, and you're saying to yourself, "Oh my gosh, they've been with me for 8 years. They should know what to do. Why are they coming to me with this?" Because you haven't assigned authority yet. That's why. It's your fault, not theirs. Because you haven't actually said you have the authority to make this call. And the best way to do that is when they come to you with that one of those questions, and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, they've done this 100 times. Why don't they just do it?" What you say is, "What would you do if I wasn't here?" And wait in uncomfortable silence. Don't give them the answer. Your answer is, "What would you do if I wasn't here?" And just wait. And then finally they'll say, "Oh, I would have done this, this, and this." And you're probably going to say, "Exactly. Go for it." And if there is a coaching moment there where you think something needs to be changed and you said, "You know what? I would have gone up to step 6 there, but in step 7, I just would have tweaked that." Go for it. And now we've got a coaching moment out of it. But if they've been with you a long time and they know the answer, 95% of the time, they've already got the answer. You just haven't given them the authority. So you basically just ask them to tell you, and now you're giving them the authority by saying, "Exactly, that's exactly what I would do if I was, or what you should have done if I wasn't here today."
Yeah, that's gold.
Now they're never going to ask you on that again.
Yeah, I've actually talked about that exact, way of doing it many times. I love it. I think it's pure gold. Even before that, it's just like you said, assigning the authority, give them the responsibility, and even like just specific task. Like, it doesn't have to be the authority of like make any decision that you possibly want to make, but specific task or something, and you give someone responsibility. Like, hey, you're going to be responsible for making sure all of the materials are ready to go next week for each job. So on this day or whatever, you're going to come in and do all of this. That's your responsibility. Like, I'm not going to tell you necessarily how to do it. Like, we can talk about it, but it's your responsibility. If you fail at your job, everyone knows that you didn't do something right. Now, you don't tell them that, obviously, but it's like a responsibility of like, everyone knows that's who is going to take that role.
One of the things that I often see with small businesses when we start working with them is they don't even have an accountability chart. Like, they don't have an organizational chart.
Yeah.
And I like to use the word accountability chart as opposed to organizational chart, because I really don't care what somebody's title is. I just want to know what they're accountable for. And are you accountable for buying all the materials? Are you accountable for the sales? Are you accountable for the marketing? Are you accountable for the install? Are you accountable for this crew going out to this job site? And when we have the accountability chart and somebody new comes on board, you show them the accountability chart. Now they know right off the bat who's in charge. It's all I need to know as a new person on board. Where do I go for my answers until I get accustomed to what's going on here? And most small business owners don't have that. And you should have an accountability chart if you're any more than 2 or 3 people. It starts, right? It starts. It's like, if I'm not here, who's making the decision? Is that the person, the crew leader of the team? Is it in my case, the store manager at one of our stores, or whatever the case is? Who's in charge? Who's the person that signs my paycheck? Who's the person that does the payroll? Who's the person that does these different things? Because that one person might have several different accountabilities on the accountability chart, and that's fine. But if you get into problems where there's 2 or 3 people in one box on the accountability chart, that's very confusing because nobody knows who to go to. Who is the boss here? I need to know. Because if I talk to you, but you're not the actual boss, then there's miscommunication over all kinds of stuff. All kinds of things start breaking down. Doesn't look good. Doesn't look good to the customer base. I mean, it's just not good. We need to have clear lines of communication, process driven, and accountability that are around those things for a better business for ourselves, but also to give confidence to a new owner that if these are the things, here are the people in charge of all these different areas of our business, and this is how, basically shit gets done. Right?
Yeah, I love it. Are you a fan of, like Tim Ferriss talked about this in 4-Hour Workweek book, but are you a fan of like assigning certain dollar amounts of decision-making and capability for your staff? Like for
I do.
the lady, working the lowest level, giving people shoes.
Yes.
You say, hey, you can make a decision, up to like $200 or whatever. Like if they're, are you a fan of that? Do you do that?
We do. Yeah. Including right up to my general manager of the stores and stuff like that. And they buy thousands of dollars worth of shoes without my knowledge, because we have a system and a budget in place that allows it to happen. And if things go out of that zone, then I'm alerted. But within that zone, it's like, just do it. I don't need to be involved in those decisions. We have a good process. We know what our budget is. We know how things get done. You're accountable for it. And away we go. So I haven't hired a person, Brad, in probably 6 or 7 years now. And it's because my team does that. Now, if the 2 people that report to me that directly run most of the stuff within our shoe side of things, if one of them left, I would be in the position of hiring because that's my responsibility, those 2 positions. But underneath those 2 positions, everything else is their responsibility. So if it's their responsibility, why would I hire their people? Right. I mean, ultimately, I'm the owner. They are my people. But ultimately, they're working with them every day. I told you off the bat, I only work in our shoe stores about a day a week. I don't circumvent any authority. When I go in working in the store, if I'm going to go in and work in the store on a busy Saturday and sell some shoes, I'm working for the store manager that day. They aren't working for me just because I'm the business owner. I'm going in like any other salesperson. I'm saying, hey, what's our goals today? What do you need me to do? How can I serve? Because I'm there as the salesperson on that level of the accountability chart that day, not as the owner. I'm never going to circumvent them. They're in charge of running the store. I'm not.
I love it.
And my team knows that. Everybody on my team knows that. I go in there and if they ask me a question, I'm like, have you talked to Jen about that? She's the store manager.
I'm not the owner today.
No, I haven't.
Salesman. Well, ask Jen.
It's got to go through her. She's the store manager. So I'm always deferring anything that anybody who's, let's say, 2 levels down, if they're coming to me on anything, I always defer to the person in charge first. And I say, have you talked to so-and-so with regards to this? And what did they say? And often I'll say, well, you should talk to them first.
Yeah.
And then once you lay that out from an accountability structure, they don't come to you anymore. They're not trying to bypass you anymore, which happens in small business a lot. And then you get all kinds of hurt feelings and stuff like that. And then people who you've assigned authority to, now they're questioning, well, do I have authority? He went and did this, and he didn't even talk to me about it.
Yeah, and this actually ties back into what you said in the very beginning about, doing what you love. When you get to that level in the business, if you love selling shoes, you have the freedom of going and working and just doing that task because you have the rest of your chain of command, the rest of your business org chart, everything's figured out, and you just get to do what you love doing the most.
Yeah. I mean, I was at a trade show last week. I love looking at new stuff and fun stuff and interesting things. I'll bring that back. I don't buy them. I bring them back to my team, and I'm part of the team that does all the buying. But when we sit down and we look at it, it's like, I just saw all these, 7 new brands and all this kind of stuff. And what do you guys think? And ultimately it's like, okay, well, now we go back to the budget. Now we go back to our process. And if it fits in, maybe we'll get some, but I'm not just going to override them and say, hey, here's the new thing, like, order 1,000 pair and let's go. No, that's not our system.
Yeah.
Like, we have a system to do things. We have a system that works through that process, that middle P that I said, promise, product, process, people, profit. That's how it works. It has to work in a system, or else it's not transferable to anybody else. And you will be making the decisions for the rest of your life. Like my buddy is still a dear friend of mine and still suffers in business.
Yeah. I mean, that advice right there, I think, is a great note to kind of end this call on, as we're getting close to time here. Pete, before we get off here, if somebody wants to learn more about your services or what you do or buy your book, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Well, my book, it's called The Business Owner Breakthrough, which is the same as my podcast. It's on Amazon, so you can pick it up. It's a short read, nice and good for most of the business owners. Don't want to read 400 pages. It's about 100 pages long, so it's a quick one. And, the best way to get a hold of me really is at my website, pete-mohr, mohr.com. And you can get to all my other websites off of that. So pete-mohr, mohr.com. And all of the stuff sort of rolls down from there. And happy to chat with anybody. And if you want to take your value builder assessment, you can take that and we'll hop on a call and go through that too. I'm happy to spend some time with anybody listening here today.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put links for that in the show notes too. One last question I like to ask all my guests is, obviously your book, we want to pick that up, but besides your book, what's one that either you're currently reading or one that you would recommend?
Based on what we talked about today, I would say Traction is a really good one to read from Gino Wickman. It's the EOS philosophy, entrepreneurial operating system. We've been talking a lot about process today, and I do like Traction. I use sort of a modified version of Traction with my clients, but it is a good book. It does get you thinking about structuring your business in a way that is good for you, but also good for a potential owner down the road, if that's what you're looking to do too.
Awesome. Yep. Guys, if you haven't listened or read, I would say listen, because I listen to audiobooks, but if you haven't picked up Traction yet, I've actually read it. It's a really good book too. I would recommend that one as a good one. So pick that one up along with Pete's book. That's the Business Owner Breakthrough, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So pick that up too. You can get on Amazon or off his website. We'll have links to the show notes. Pete, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
It has been a pleasure, Brad. Thanks, and make it a great day.
Awesome. Well, guys, you know where to find me on the social medias. Just search for the Hammer and Grind podcast. Look in the show notes for links to my stuff as well. And until next time, guys, remember, profit is not a dirty word.